Here we have Lilla Marriotti with us tonight, and we are very happy to have her because she just came from a tour in other places in the States where she spoke about this special subject which she will talk to you tonight about, which is La Tonnara, and also about the lighthouses. That is another specialty of Lilla. She has been living in Camogli. She was born in Camogli, and she lives and works in Camogli, writing about the sea and this other subject I told you about. And she is an enthusiastic person that made me, at least, very interested in what she had to say. So here is Lilla Marriotti.
I come from a very small town, an ancient town, which is this one. And this town dates back to the year 1000. This is the first place where the town was born. It was first an island, more a rock than an island. Then, in the more recent times, a bridge was built to connect the island to the mainland, and now it is what the town became. I think it's better. And of course, this is, I told you, the old town, and there was only a castle and a few houses. And the main job of the men of Camogli was of course fishing. And the main activity was that of fishing tuna. The fishing of tuna has been for thousands of years the main economic resource in all the Mediterranean area. Sorry, this is, you can see better, this is the island, and this one is the old bridge, which is now the big square. And this is around where I live, if you like to know that. And this is the beach, and this is the harbor, where all the fishermen take their boats. And now, if you please go ahead, I show you. The tuna I'm talking about is the bluefin tuna, which is one. This is a very special kind of tuna. Linnaeus was a biologist in 1758, called it the Tunus tinus, and in English is what you know as a bluefin tuna, and in Italian is called red tuna because of its meat that is very, very red and is very loved by both the fishermen and the gourmet alike. This tuna is a very strong fish. It can swim very, very long distances every day, and it can live very, very long. It is said that it can live more than 50 years. And it can reach a weight of 1,000 pounds, sometimes more, because I've been catching tuna that there were 1,400 pounds. And is well known since the most ancient times, because Greeks and Romans wrote a lot about this fish. And besides, in the south of Italy, which is here, in a small island near Sicily, there is a cave with a painting representing the bluefin, which dates back to 9,000 before Christ. So you can believe that means that people was already catching and eating that fish. The fish, in Italy, there were a lot of tonnaras in the past times, all along the coast. Here, there is Sardinia, you cannot see, but along the coast of Sardinia and along the coast of Sicily. And the fish, when it was captured, was butchered in special factories near the coast, where it was all used. Nothing gets lost on the fish. Everything is used. The meat is canned or sold on the fresh fish market. The ovaries and the heart are salted and are very something very special. And until the head, which is processed to get off oil. The habitat, the usual habitat of the tuna is the north of Atlantic. It lives in very cold waters. But when springtime comes, it takes a trip towards south. It comes across the Strait of Gibraltar, which is here, and comes into the warmer waters of the Mediterranean just to spawn. And in this case, it swims very close to the coast. It takes a raid like this, very near, and he makes a trip from west to east, always swimming this way, like if you could see the coast from one side, from his left side. From this habit came the use of the people to catch him. Because I told you he's swimming this way, the men built a net that goes from the... you can go ahead, please. Okay. They built a net that goes from the coast to the deep sea. This is what is called tail, that go from the coast, and this is a shape of a tonnara. This is especially the tonnara of Camogli, which has two rooms. This one is the collection room, and this is the entrance. This is the collection room, and this one has it's a terrible name, some people doesn't like it. It's called the room of death, because when the tuna comes into this room, it cannot get off. And it is the only room, that has a bottom. One of the reasons, somebody may ask, why the tuna gets into this net and doesn't come out again. In Italy, there is something funny said. When a person is not very smart, it is said that he's a tuna. Because, because this is very strange. When the tuna get into this kind of nets and you get inside, you can see better here. You start to swim around, and then you get into this one, which is the room of death. In Italy, now there are only a few tonnara left. During the past centuries, I told you there were a lot, just all around the coasts. Now there are only 5 left. There are 2 in Sardinia. You cannot see Sardinia here. Anyway, it's on the west coast of Sardinia. And 2 are on the north coast of Sicily. One is here, and the other one is here on a small island called Favignana. And the tonnara di Camogli is the only one left in the north of Italy, in the north of Mediterranean. I want to give you some historical information about this tonnara because, as I told you, dates back, it's very old. You can believe in the early, around 1200, there was already a tuna trap. They were put down by the abbots of a monastery that was there near the coast, but it was not very good, so they left it. The first news of the tonnara of Camogli dates back to the 17th century. In 1703, there was a decree of the authorities of the time that say that part of the fish of tuna should be done to the population. This was just to take care of the less wealthy people. In 1712, there was another decree that stated that only the men of Camogli could work in the tonnara, and again it is said that the tuna should have been done to the population. This decree goes on in the centuries until 1817, until we had the last information about this. The 1600 should have been a golden age for the tonnara of Camogli, because it was the first in importance among the others along the Italian Riviera. and her profits were used to build roads, to build a new harbor, and even to build a monastery on the top of a hill surrounding Camogli, where in 1518 the Virgin Mary appeared to a young girl. You know, the people going by sea, the fishermen, are very pious, so they gave a lot of money for this construction. Following this, in the 1700s, we don't have many more information about the tonnara. We only know that it was only still working. In the 1800s, the tonnara goes on different situations. It's no more. Can you go on, please? This is the tonnara. Yes, you can see the shape from the eye. This is the tail, and this is the collection room. This is the death room. And now I will leave this so I can tell you something more about this. Now I'm going to finish with the story. In the 1800s, was no more working very well, and was sold for auction in 1877. While by mid-1800s, men of Camogli were working with a tonnara in Santa Margherita, because along the Ligurian coast they were all tonnaras, one after the other. At the end of the century, it was not so profitable because there was a shortage of tuna when started at that time. So they started to catch any kind of fish they could find. By the turn of the century, the tonnara was still working anyway, and by 1913 it caught 4,400 pounds of tuna again, and in 1914 was again the first one among all the other tonnaras in Italy. Anyway, in 1923 she stopped. In 1937 there was a mayor in Camogli, was a great friend of the fishermen, so he decided to start again the tonnara. And it was made a great, there was a great meeting in the town hall, and a new cooperative among the fishermen was created. That was, I told you, was 1937. And the tonnara started again to work at that time, and working until 1979, when the men who managed it were too old to go on, and then the tonnara stopped. But nobody wanted to let this ancient system of fishing die. So what happened that in 1982 there was a new cooperative co-op among the fishermen, and they raised the tonnara, they resurrected it really, and the tonnara is still working today. The location of the tonnara. This is the ceremony in 1937 when they started again the tonnara. These are all the local authorities, and they give blessing to the nets, because that was an ancient use in the community, to bless the nets at the beginning of the season. Please, guys. And these are the men working in the new started tonnara. As you can see, there were a lot of men, but now, I'll tell you later, now there are only a few left. I want to tell you something about the location of the tonnara, which is located at the bottom of this mountain since since many centuries. It's located, you have seen already, the tail, the rooms, and the way the tuna gets into the nets. And at the end of the death room, there is a boat which is called armchair. It's called like this because in the past the fishermen used to live on this boat, to eat and to sleep there. and the fishermen were sometimes at least 20 altogether. But now there are only 12 fishermen that work in 2 different shifts from Saturday to Saturday. And they go back and forth from the harbor of Camogli 3 times a day. At first dawning, by mid-morning, and by mid-afternoon. And they lift on the nets and watch if there is something inside. Otherwise, they leave and they go back home. Now, if you go on, please. And this is what I was telling before, the fishermen eating in the boat. They used to eat the fish that they catch in the day. They were just eating the same fish they catch. This is again an old picture of the tonnara, and you can see there are still many men. This is a picture that this is the same as before, no? No, it's okay. No, this is it's okay. This is a picture that dates back to the 50s. And this is, you can see Camogli is not far from town. The location of the tonnara is just in the Gulf. Please. And this is the catch of the day. You see these are tuna fish and the men. This is old, this picture is older. This dates back to the 40s. And now, the catch of the tuna, now it's very rare to catch, it's very difficult to catch tuna. Nobody knows why. The tuna has changed their way, so they only catch what they can find into the net. Please. This is another picture, and this is the catch. And these are the men. I want to show this man. This man is now 90. And this is a picture of the 40s or 50s, I don't remember really. And the nets of the tonnara are made in Camogli every winter because the work of the tonnara doesn't stop with the summer. They put the net into the sea by early April and they stay until the end of September. And during the winter, there is a lot of work to do. There are the nets to be made, the boats to be repaired. And the nets are made by the men, the fishermen themselves, with using coconut yarn that comes every year from India. And one of the men that works very hard with the fishermen in the winter is that man. Now, you will see in the next picture how he is now. And during the, please, this is another crew, because we have had different crews, of course, during the years. That are all historical pictures of the tonnara. And this is the way the men take on the net. Because in other tonnaras, they carry on the matanza, which is called also harvest, which is a terrible way of catching the fish. It's not much loved by people, but this is an ancient, very ancient tradition, which is carried on through songs, prayers, and shouts. This is mostly carried on in the Sardinian and Sicilian tonnaras still today. This is a way, different way. You see, here is the boat, this is the armchair, and the men take on the net. In the other tonnaras, there are a lot of boats, not only 3 like here, and they put all in a square around the net, and they put up the room until the tunas come into on the surface. And then they catch each tuna with a hook, and they put the tuna into the boat, where there is a man that cut the arteries at the side of the head, and the tuna dies in about 15 seconds. This is much due now to the fact that those tonnara survive because they sell all they catch to the Japanese. And the Japanese, they want the tuna to be catched like this because he wants the tuna be safe and is not hurted, just killed. And in the same day, the tuna is delivered to the airport and the next day arrives to Japan. In Camogli, this doesn't happen. There is no matanza. They just pull on the nets, and they just put all the catch in another boat, which is called the donkey. And this is the boat that goes back and forth from the harbor every day. And they have another boat. There are only 3 boats against the 5, 6, sometimes 8 boats of the other tonnaras. I told you this is the armchair, the boat that carry the catch is called the donkey. And then there is another smaller boat which is called the lookout that is used by the chief guard to get into the death room, which is a big net, and he uses to go around into this net to see if it's full of fishes. And when it's full, he asks his men to pull it up. This is what happened in springtime. When the nets are finished, they put the nets on the harbor of Camogli to dry, and this is the oven where the death room, which is the only part of the net made of nylon, is dyed, is painted, because it is clear and it must be dark, otherwise the fish saw it and they don't get inside. Can you please? This is another picture of the same. These are because the men make all pieces of nets that must be later connected all together to make a bigger net, of course. And those stones are used to anchor the net to the bottom, because the net has a rectangular shape, and those stones are used to keep this rectangular shape. Please, Alice, thank you. This is the chief guard that we have now, and this is the old man. You will see better in another picture. We have in this crew we have 2 chief guards. This is the older now, and they are, I told you, 6 men. And during the springtime, this is picture I've taken in March. They work on the harbor, and please, Ernst. And this is the old man. You can believe he's 90, and this is still teaching to younger men is this kind of job. Because this of the tonnara is a very male tradition which is passed from one generation to another. And this man, please, this is the same man a few years ago. He was still doing the same job. You can believe he has done this job for all his life. I think he's the only one. Please, thank you. This is the dyeing of the nets. This is taken in a rainy day. You can see the nets here. And this is I call it the oven. I don't know if the right word really. But they put the nets into here, and they use chemical colors now to paint it. And this is the operation of when they start the season. They put the nets on a boat. This is the chair, the armchair boat is the biggest, and the men working to put the nets into the boat. And this is again the old man. This is when the nets arrive in the place at the bottom of the mountain, and they start to shape the nets in the proper way. And this is still the old man. This picture has been taken, I think, a couple of years ago. And now, this is the crew today. This is the chief of the second crew, And these are the men working today. You can see again Camogli, which is now developed a lot. There's no more the small village of the 1,000. And this is the net of the dead room, which is not made of coconut, but is made of nylon. This is the donkey. This is the boat called the donkey, with the catching on board, and the men come back in the harbor of Camogli. Please, thank you. Well, now we stop here for a while. No, I want to tell you something about the men of the tonnara, because there are many differences also in this one between the tonnara of Camogli and the other tonnara. The tonnaras of Sicily and Sardinia have a chief whose name is Rais, because it is said that the tonnara has been started by the Arabs and by the Phoenicians also is said. But really they are not, it's not possible, we have not found any documentation on this. So it is only said. You can believe that the name for sure comes from the Arabs. But it's not sure that the tonnara, the tradition of the tonnara has been started by the Arabs. And the men that work in the tonnara are called tonnarotti, which mean men of the tonnara. And they have this very special name. And when they go to the tonnara, there is a lot of boats, one after the other, like a procession. And then when they arrive on the deck, they put all, I told you before, all the boats in square fashion, and they carry on the matanza. And this is made among songs, prayers, because I told you before, the men are very pious. But this is something very strange, because it's something among religious and can say something that go back to the times of the deities. It's a mixture, you know. But the men of Camogli, they don't like those kind of names. They like to be called just fishermen. They don't like to be called tonnarotti or the rais. They are very special people. So the man who had all the company is called the chief guard, and the men are just fishermen, nothing else but that. What happened in the tonnara is that in past times they used to catch very strange fishes. Now it's still happening, but because of the time has changed, and it's not more possible to show those animals to the public. While in the past years, when there was no television, there was no particular possibility to divulgation, the men used to catch to put those fish that they captured in the harbor of Camogli and to show them to the population. It was very interesting because all people came down in the harbor, and they were called only two photographers of Camogli, and they used to take pictures of this happening. And the next day it was on the paper, and all people was used to buy the paper to see if they could see themselves on the newspaper. So this picture dates back to the 800s, the late 800s. And you can see this is a very big shark. Nobody knows whose kind of shark is. Can be, I've been told that it's a barking shark. I don't know if you know what a barking shark is. I don't even know. Anyway, it's like a whale shark, more similar to a whale shark than a true shark. And all you can see, as I told you before, all the people around, because this was a very great happening. Please, thank you. This is a shark caught by the tonnara in the 50s. And here again you see that is shown in the harbor. This is the harbor of Camogli, and all the men watching around, and also the boys came Please. Oh, this is a white shark. This is not, this happens also today. They get sometimes white sharks, but as I told you before, they are not more shown to the public. And this was 1,400 pounds, 1,400 kilos, which is 2,800 pounds. It was terrible. Look at the teeth and the people all around. This was, yeah, this was, I think, the most important catch of the tuna trap. Yeah, this is a, I don't know if it was still alive or not really, but this is a turtle. His weight was 1,000 pounds and was about 500 years old. That was decided by people who came to see this. And this happened in the 50s, and here again, this man is a special man. I remember always him. He was the contabile, you say in English, of the accountant, thank you. He was the accountant of the tonnara. He was a very precious man, because all the most important data of the he kept all the most important data of the tonnara. And here again, all the people around the monster. Okay. Here is a manta, a devilfish, and this is the church of Camogli. This is and this is the old part of Camogli. This is the church. These houses dates back to 1600. You see, I mean the first settlement of Camogli. And this is a really big fish. It's called the devilfish or manta. Please. And this is the more recent. This was catched on June the 2nd, 1974. And this is such a strange fish that a picture of this fish was sent to Jacques Cousteau in Monte Carlo, because nobody could realize what kind of fish was. And he said that it was a Lamprey regius, which is of the family of the sunfish, but is a fish that usually lives in the very deep water of the Pacific Ocean. So it was very strange that it was passing through Camogli. Was just, it is only the only one that they catch at that time. This picture is special because no other fish like that has been never catched. Okay, you can leave here, thank you. Now, I think I've finished with the story of the tonnara. That's all the story in a few words. But what I want to say is that this very ancient tradition that dates back really thousands of years is going to die, because young people doesn't want to start this job, which is very, very hard. You can believe you have to get up about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and go by sea. Go at sea at this early time of the day. Then you have to come back, to go back by mid-morning, to come back and go back by mid-afternoon. And sometimes you don't catch anything, and the reward is not very high. The job that is done in the winter is done by the older men. And in the crew, the older men would like to retire because they have been working for a long, long time. But they have no new people to whom teach this ancient job, which is should be important to carry on in the coming years. The tonnaras of Sardinia and Sicily, as I've told you, can still be alive because of the Japanese. But the men of Camogli, because they are so strange, they don't want Japanese in their job. And because they don't catch any more tuna, of course they catch a lot of fishes, but different kind of fishes, even big fishes that they sell in the fish market, of course, is rewarding the tonnara, otherwise was not more in use. But what is terrible that there are no young people that want to do this job. So this is why I'm going to talk about the tonnara. I've been talking in Italy, I've been talking here in the United States, in some other places in the south of the States, because I desire that people know this ancient fishing system, which has been carried on for, I told you, thousands of years, with the same technique, always the same way. So it's terrible that it's going to die. And we all hope that if people talk about this, if people know about this, maybe the tonnara can still be alive. Thank you very much.
I don't know, but no, it was, yes, about kilos, it was about 30 kilos. See, yeah, that was not very big.
Oh,
Very big, that was not very big. No.
$2 pounds.
Do they still eat these other fish besides the tuna? All the strange fish like the stingray and the shark and the whale, do they still eat them?
Oh yeah. No, they sell them to the not locally, but those fishes are sold in the fish market in town. They are usually sold. They are cut and they are sold by cut. They are all sold, yes.
Can you point out Camoni on the map behind you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right in the middle of the Ligurian Gulf near Genoa.
Don't they have a festival in the summer where they have a big frying pan?
Yes.
And you cook the fish in the frying pan? A festival.
I've not understood, I'm sorry.
La sagra del pesce.
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
Sorry. Yes, Camogli is well known for this. It is something that I really don't like very much. No, yes, it's well known for that, but I can tell you something. It's the second summer of May, which is the day dedicated to the saint that protect the fishermen. And this started in the 50s, in the 1950. And the fishermen used to put a big pan in the harbor of Camogli, and they fry fish for all people coming to see. Yes, it's a very popular festival, that very well known and very well, yeah.
Who is the patron saint of the fishermen? The saint, the Santo.
Oh, the saint is San Fortunato. Yeah, this was a Roman soldier who died because of his fight. And he was taken in Camogli in the 1700s.
The patron saint varies from different places.
The pictures?
The patron saint changes from
Oh,
place
sure,
to
yes.
Another is San Pietro.
Yeah. No, every place has its local saint. In Camogli there is the body of the Saint Fortunatus. In some other place there is not. But like in Sardinia, there is an island where is the tonnara is called Island, St. Peter Island, and they are devoted to St. Peter, but of course there is not the body of St. Peter there, but they are very much devoted. All the people going by sea, also the sailmen, are very much devoted, very much pious.
Okay.
Do I understand that there's a website that talks about, has all this information, about these traditions?
If I have a website.
Is there a website that has information about this tradition?
No, I have a website.
You have a website.
Yeah, I have a website where you can get all those information, yes. The story of the tonnara of Camogli is still in Italian, But there is the story of the tonnara of Carloforte, which is in English, and you can also find what I've written for this speech that I've really followed just a little, but you can find the text is in English. If you want my website, I give you, or you can find on the...
With your name?
With my name, yes. But no, the name of the website is different. It's not my name. If I want, I'll give you, if you want now or later, as you like. Okay.
There was a book written by an American girl, Teresa Maggio, called La Matanza, which is about the tonnara in Favignana. And that's a very bloody, whole different...
Yeah. I spoke to the Rais of the Favignana just before leaving, but the tonnara of Favignana has lost its credibility now because it's been the first who opened to tourism. And usually fishermen doesn't want tourists around when they carry on Matanza or when they put off the nets. They just want to do their work. But the tonnara of Favignana has been the first open to tourism. And this year the tonnara of Favignana didn't catch any tuna, just nothing. While the tonnara of Bonagia, which is in Sicily, catch 1,300 tunas only, because they usually catch 2,000-3,000 tunas every year. And the tonnara of Carloforte, together with another, there are two tonnaras in Sardinia, which are owned by the same person, is Carloforte and Porto Scuso. They catch together only 1,100 tuna. This was a very poor year, really.
They're having the same problem at Cape Cod because they are not allowed anymore to catch limitless supplies of codfish. So at our New England coast, the fishermen are not catching and they're not permitted to catch them because the sea is getting polluted and everything is, many of those monstrous overfished jets and many of the monstrous fishes that you see that are so unusual are really the result of poisonous seas.
Yeah, but this is, okay, I understand what you mean, yeah. But what I was going to say about what you said is that also the tuna fish is overfished now and is going to disappear. Also because of the pollution first, and secondly because of overfishing. And now because of the Japanese market, because they really, and besides there is another thing that is born just a few years ago, the flying tonnaras, which are big fishing boats. They stopped, at the beginning they stopped outside the Strait of Gibraltar in the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and they had helicopters and airplanes and very sophisticated tools, equipments to catch the tuna. When they find big schools of tunas, they just went on top of them and they put down nets and put on the tunas. Now we have a lot of those fishing boats also in the Mediterranean. So this really fish is really overfished. And there is another thing to say. When the tuna spawn, when the young tuna are hatched, they usually stay 1 year or two into the Mediterranean, while the older tunas follow the same path and they return to the Atlantic. But there is people that catch the young tuna when they are 1 or 2 years old, and this is really something that must not be made. There are regulations for that. There is the international regulation, the ICCAT, that gives the size of the weight of the fish you have to catch, but are not really followed, because if catching this tuna makes profit, the fishermen catch the tuna.
This is a great international problem because they have these monstrous fishing boats which can do what you described of following the schools of fish, catching them and right on the ships. They can freeze them.
Yeah, sure.
And they go all over the world, beyond the 3 Mile Island, and they say it's open water, and they can do that.
Yeah, sure, they do that. And this is mostly done for the industry, for the canned fish industry. It's not only for the red tuna, really. It's all made for all the kinds of tunas, because there are different kinds of tuna. This is, I'm talking about, is the most precious. There are a lot. The most known and the most canned is the albacore tuna, which is very pink, very clear meat. This one, if you want to buy a can of this tuna in Italy, is really very expensive, because only a few remain there in the local market.